Alright, what's up everyone? I'm General Goofball, and today we're taking the German Empire into ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts. We're running a full naval campaign starting in the 1900s, building our fleet completely from scratch. The AI is set to random, so who knows, maybe we'll go toe to toe with the British Empire, or maybe end up fighting the Austro-Hungarians for absolutely no reason. And yes, the German fleet's ready. Because if the enemy doesn't sink, they're about to rethink their whole navy. Anyway, let's get into it, set sail, and see what kind of chaos we can stir up on the high seas. I'm going to customize the destroyer now. I'll be back as soon as it's finished, and I'll run you through the specifications. Alright, here's the final destroyer design. Real quick, ignore the absolutely hideous amounts of roll and pitch. It's huge, but I still think this is a decent starter boat. Price-wise, it's 5 million, not exactly pocket change for something that looks like it drinks seawater for breakfast, but it's functional. The main armament is just 3-inch guns, that's the only gun mount, and I added them mostly in case we encounter enemy destroyers that want to get cheeky. I don't expect them to land many hits, but hey, something to point at. Torpedoes. We're using the 1x1 deck torpedo tubes. They're trash, honestly, they're ass. But that's what's available, so we'll make it work. The role for some of these ships isn't to survive, it's to tank hits and bleed the big ships, or at least cripple them enough so our heavier units can finish the job. Cheap, replaceable, and surprisingly dangerous if we place them right. Alright, it's time to move on to the light cruiser. I have been thinking, what exactly are these light cruisers supposed to do? And trust me, this is very important in this game. If we took a semi-armored cruiser, it could, in theory, handle torpedo boats and maybe even engage heavy cruisers or higher class ships. But let's be honest, light cruisers are not really built for that. That's why I'd rather go with this light cruiser design instead. It fits the role we actually need rather than pretending it can punch about its weight. Alright, I think that's the design we're going with, and now it's time to finish up the build. This is the Nürnberg class light cruiser that we're rolling with. Given our tech right now, the 6 and 7-inch guns are Mark II single barrelers and not ideal for a light cruiser, which is why I went with a reliable 5-inch main gun plus a bunch of 3-inch secondary mounts. And yes, the 5-inch gun isn't all that big, but hey, size isn't everything. That's what he said. But yes, the mission for these cruisers is simple. Beat their own class and absolutely annihilate destroyers, and basically act as bodyguards for the heavy hitters. One more thing, I bumped the HE shell ratio on these cruisers and outfitted them with torpedoes in every available port. There's one here, 2 on the sides, and 1 on the stern, giving us 4 underwater torpedo launchers in total. On top of that, we got a bunch of 3-inch secondaries, and with the increased HE, they're specifically tuned for tearing apart destroyers. So while the big guns handle other cruisers, the secondaries and torpedoes make sure the little nuisance ships die painfully. Now onto our heavy cruisers. We're not going to cheap out on these. They need to be strong because they're going to be the heaviest hitters escorting our battleships. Speaking of battleships, these won't be anything extraordinary, but they're going to hold a special place in the Navy as the pride of the fleet. And yes, also as the obviously strongest ships in our lineup. Alright, time to get to building. Let's see what our heavy cruiser design looks like. And here she is, the Thor class heavy cruiser. She's got a top speed of 24 knots, and honestly, range doesn't really matter right now. I did what I could. I cranked up the AP shells because, well, just look at this thing. It looks cursed. Like, actually cursed. But that's the point. It's a floating gun platform. This ship is meant to escort our battleships or even lead missions on its own. Think of it as our discount version of the historical German pocket battleships. Just, held together by pure confidence and duct tape. For armament, we got a bunch of 3-inch secondaries everywhere. Like, this ship's got more guns than sense. It's basically a porcupine with cannons. Despite how ridiculous it looks, I think it'll work out. I maxed out the main belt armor, so nothing's punching through that anytime soon. Accuracy though, yeah, with that much roll and pitch, we're probably hitting everything but the enemy. Hey, it's still German engineering though, just after a few too many beers. So, this is the Tor class at its final peak. It costs 51 million, which definitely isn't cheap. But hey, we're not here to build a budget navy. We're here to build a fleet that doesn't lose ships. We make the other guy lose theirs. Honestly, I think this ship is gonna earn every bit of that price tag. Alright, that's the Tor, and now for the moment you've all been waiting for, the battleship. Alright, so for this part we're doing a little time lapse. The battleship build took way too long to show in real time, and I'd rather not nuke your attention span into oblivion. So here's the sped up version of me losing my mind over German ship design. First off, I placed down the funnels and the front and secondary towers, and everything looked fine until I tried adding the main guns. That's when I realized the 12-inch double barrels I wanted to didn't actually fit. Yeah, German engineering, but make it geometry. The rear turret worked fine, but I didn't want to have a 12-inch double barrel on the back and some sad 8-inch setup on the front. That'd just look wrong. So I had to downgrade the front tower to the first variant, the weakest one unfortunately. But once we unlocked true Dreadnought designs, things will get a lot easier. After that, I moved on to the side panel settings, adjusting ammunition, armor types, boilers, engines, the whole shebang. Then came the painful part, balancing the armor, tonnage, and weight offset so the ship doesn't flip over the moment someone sneezes near it. And after way too much tinkering, I finally finished the design. Hope you enjoyed the time lapse. Now let's get into the actual gameplay and see if this thing sails or explodes. Alright, I need a war, and I'm about to manufacture one. Hopefully someone takes the bait, because nothing says content like a bit of chaos on the high seas. Alright, so let's check how much money and finances we got laying around. 1.2 billion. Not great, not terrible. I mean, that's actually pretty good. Now, the best part is our ships aren't even that expensive, so theoretically we could build, what, like 4 to 5 battleships? Maybe we can use a couple of upgrades while we're at it. Oh, we already got the Bismarck, that's nice. So I'm thinking we start running out a few of our Tor class heavy cruisers and mix them in with a healthy batch of light cruisers. Because honestly, a balanced lead is nice and all, but I'm kind of feeling like going full light cruiser supremacy this time. You know, small, fast, angry ships with a vendetta. So yeah, that's the plan. We'll keep our battleships as a part of the fleet. But the light cruisers, they'll be the real backbone, the workhorses, the mosquito swarm of doom. And now we're going to max out the destroyers, which are basically going to be our version of the Japanese kamikaze fighters, but in ship terms. What they're going to be doing is running straight into the enemy fleet and throwing torpedoes wherever the hell they see the enemy ship. Alright, I'll skip the 20 minutes of logistics and fleet shuffling. The next part after this cutoff will explain the situation to you pretty quickly. October 1901. We're officially at war with the British Empire. To be honest, I wanted this. Britain is the naval benchmark, and I wanted to test our steel against theirs. As far as I can tell, the fleet's operational and ready. Engines hot, crews prepared. Let's find out if German engineering still laughs in the face of the Royal Navy. Now, quick pause before the action. Up until now, we only had smaller engagements, a few destroyer skirmishes, a failed attempt to defend transports where I didn't even find the enemy. Yeah, that one was tragic. But all in all, no ships lost, no major damage, pretty clean sailing so far. However, before we wrap up the episode, it's time for the main event. The final battle of this video. And trust me, this one is worth it. Now this is what I'm talking about. Our fleet against the British fleet. So far it's been calm, small skirmishes, nothing too exciting, but this is the real deal. The Royal Navy thinks they can dominate the seas. Well, let's see how that works out when German steel meets their ships. Time to find out who really rules the waves. Alright, quite unfortunately, we have lost the audio on this recording where I actually fight. However, I can still voice over it because I know what happened, and I'm going to try to give you an accurate voice over. Now here I started reorganizing the navy, the fleet I meant, and we met the British ships. Now here's some micromanagement, so we can just ignore this part. However, this is all going to be important because I'm here making sure that the battleships are being screened properly, and I believe that I made the light cruiser line go in from the sides because they also have torpedoes. Now here we're scoring some very nice hits, and as you can see, we scored even a flash fire, which was our early game flash fire is always welcome. Now here the bullets are being exchanged quite a bit, and I stopped the gameplay because I need to micromanage this, especially with the fact that this isn't really easy because we're going to the sides with the light cruisers and to the other side with the battleships, which can be hit by torpedoes, which wouldn't be really good for us. However, the main heroes of this story, I would not say were the light cruisers or the battleships, even though everyone had their own little part. I believe that the destroyers V-21 and V-3, especially the V-21, are going to be heroes, and you're going to see now what I did. As I mentioned before, those destroyers are meant to be suicidal, and here the destroyer V-12 successfully dropped her torpedoes mid the British Navy and hit this heavy cruiser, which I couldn't really get the name of right now, but yes, and she sunk. Press F to pay respects to the destroyer V-21, and I also believe she dropped her other torpedoes in. Destroyer V-3 just barely managed getting her torpedoes off at this other destroyer, still doing her own task. And she sunk her, which is good. The light cruisers fought the heavy cruiser over there, keeping her busy, while the battleships were tasked with sinking the whole fleet. Yes, the entire fleet. Well, there is another pair of light cruisers that are fighting here, but I think they were also sinking whatever they could find. See, here they're just trying to get in with the torpedoes, but the heavy cruiser duds them. It's heavy cruiser subtly, by the way, that we're fighting here with the light cruisers, and I believe this is the other line of light cruisers that are going in to sink this one, the Imperieuse. Now the Nuremberg are the started ramming, which I didn't see early on, so I just rammed this Endymion heavy cruiser with her and ended both the Nuremberg, which is the carrier of the class name, and the Endymion. Here is a bit of a calmer game, however Devonshire is getting hit from all sides, and the goal of here was to sink as much as we can. I mean, obviously. Now the battleships are very useful because they proved themselves to be a very strong force to be reckoned with, and I hope you saw that hole. Now Friedrich der Grosse and Posen are the battleships that were fighting here, and you could have seen that earlier before we started this game. Here we can see the heavy cruisers go at it, and oh, I even forgot that we had heavy cruisers in this battle. Yes, the name carrier of the class, actually Thor, was in this battle, but I think I'm not sure. Maybe she got sunk, maybe she didn't. The light cruiser Cormoran got hit quite a bit, I remember that. Now here comes the point where the battleships were the most useful in this battle, I could say. They go up into close combat with the heavy cruisers and their battleship, which do not really have torpedoes, I believe, or if they did have them, they did not really use them. And here's the battleship Exmouth going side to side with our battleship, and that will not end really good. The Sutley heavy cruiser is not having a good time here after being absolutely gangbanged by our forces. Here, oh my god, that was a nice salvo. Here we got Lancaster dropping her torpedoes at Friedrich der Grosse, which all three of them hit, however Friedrich did not sink. Now we got the 12.5-inch guns firing at their battleship, which wasn't quite effective because she was facing away from us, meaning that her armor was way more effective. Here we absolutely sink the destroyer that tried to torpedo us. I mean, Posen sunk her. And now she started getting a better angle on the British Exmouth. However, as the rest of the British fleet got sunk, the rest of our fleet started coming up to help our battleships with fighting. However, they were already doing a pretty darn good job, as you can see. That hit was absolutely brutal. I think that Posen accidentally hit the destroyer, and she managed sinking her too. There goes the battleship, and now they're just chasing down Devonshire, which is about to get sunk. After getting Devonshire sunk, that was everything that was left of the British Navy. So after finishing up the British Navy, you can see here what are the the crew losses, basically all of the casualties, and we only lost 2 destroyers, and I believe we lost, Nürnberg, as she got sunk while ramming one of the British heavy cruisers. Now, obviously, we got way more victory points here because we only really lost 3 ships against 16, which is around, I believe, 5 to 6 times. My math is not the best side. Math is not my best quality. Yeah, 5 times more than what we have got sunk, and also probably way more important ships got sunk than what 2 destroyers and a light cruiser. Basically, they have lost a good chunk of their heavy cruisers and a little bit of their light cruisers, destroyers, torpedo boats, and 1 battleship, which has also proven that our battleships are currently superior to the British battleships. That would be it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you watch the next one, obviously. I will not be doing daily upload. I will be doing upload weekly, if not maybe 2 times a week, because I'm quite busy with schoolwork and such. However, until the next video, salutations, soldier.